Good evening, televiewers. You're welcome to this edition of Prime on My Media Prime, the very first edition for and it's mandate not only to the Northwest but to Cameroon as general. We are going to be looking at what he actually did and what he achieved. He articulated some of the strong points that ran through their session in Bamenda, and also going to be reacting from this perspective. I'm talking about us in the those of us in the studio. We're going to be talking about that, but also he granted an exclusive interview to My Media Prime through Charles Kebwa, who is our Northwest based correspondent. We're going to be taking a listen to that interview at the end of this program, but we are starting discussing what actually happened out there with our panelists who are in the house already. Mr. Shunneh Siaka is in the house with us. He is a militant of the CPDM party and also a municipal councillor, I'm sure, for Bafut. We're glad to have you with us.
Yes, Loniat, I'm delighted to be here to analyze fervent and fundamental facts about our beloved nation, Cameroon. They have taken a step ahead in terms of promoting multiculturalism and bilingualism. It is something that we must laud because they are working in the right direction. Thank you for inviting me.
We're also in the company of Tata who is a lecturer and also he formerly lived in the diaspora. He's in Cameroon today and has the dream of one day leading this nation. He has made his intentions clear to wanting to be the next president of Cameroon. We're glad to have you with us this evening, Tata.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Kum. I think this is a very interesting topic to talk about because hate speech is something that has eaten into the marrows of most Cameroonians, and I think it's one of the major causes of the current crisis. So it's a topic that is worth discussing as we shall look into it subsequently.
We're also in the company of Tah Mai Jarvis, who is sitting in for Professor Mark Anthony, a Pan-African who just told me that he was not going to make it. He's tied down, by other family issues. Tah Mai Jarvis, we're glad to have you with us.
Good evening and happy start of week to the peace-loving people of the Northwest region, and of course to the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Pobia, and of course Chairman John Fundi, Professor Maurice Kanto, all key political stakeholders who are putting their hands on deck to ensure that we move the nation ahead, and also to those of our brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora. I want to say good evening to them. Above all, good evening to the peace-loving people of my village, Way and Moya, where I grew up. And we want to say we are going to do justice to the topic, and those who probably may disagree what we are here to say, my media prime is open for them to come and also express their mind objectively, honest, frank, to move the nation forward.
Okay, we're going to start this discussion with this first intervention of Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle, who is going to be situating us on the raison d'etre for his mission to the Northwest region.
We are here to fight, to crusade. I don't want to use the word fight because fight might entail violence. No, to crusade against hate speech and xenophobia. Because, as I said, you heard us say in the hall, that as a matter of fact, your bilingualism, which is not on the platform of moral values, which I did cite there, moral values are there, their law, their justice, their equity, their transparency. We talk of bringing the people together in the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. And we emphasize on love. You know, love is the greatest commandment in the Bible. Well, that is Matthew 22, 37 to 39. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and then of course love. And of course, the fear of the Lord, integrity, dignity, and honor. That is a platform on which bilingualism can be useful. If from this platform, you are not very useful, because we need moral background in order to build a people, to build a nation, and build a society. If you don't have it, and that's why we talk about morality and the crisis that you know all over the nation and the world, because there's the absence of that platform. Love solves all problems. Love is the answer to all our problems. If you don't have love, you have nothing. All that we are doing is emptiness. If I don't love you, all that I'm doing to you is emptiness. If you don't love me, all that you are doing is emptiness. So love is the platform for every good thing to happen to a people. And now you see hate speech and xenophobia exist because there's no love. You will not insult somebody if you love. Because love should be, should cut across. It's not just for some people, it should be for all of them. Yeah. It's bilingualism should be for everybody, not for a few people. You know, it should be for all, because it's good for you. First, the people who are bilingual, and then second, for your environment.
Okay, that was Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle talking there to the press in Bamenda, the Northwest Regional Capital, while on a working visit to the region. Siaka Shunneh, you listened to him and just the thoughts that they decided to move and engage this campaign. Was it time, or is coming too late, or you think we need more of such ventures?
I think their thought is very timely. It's a station time, and a station time saves nine.
Okay.
But I think they have been working tremendously in the background. And if you follow Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle very keenly, the foundation of their tour was based on love, because he explains it very well. He exonerates very well. Love cuts across all the spheres, implying that there cannot be equality without love. There cannot be justice without love. There cannot be, how do I put it, fairness without love. So love is that fundamental weapon that we must share. And then, you know, as he went forward to quote the Bible, you have to love your neighbor as yourself. We have been going through a high rate of moral decadence in this country, and it is one of the fundamental factors that caused the crisis that we are facing now in the Anglophone regions of this country, because some people felt not loved, they felt neglected, and this was just out of negligence because of the high rate of moral decadence. And I think their mission going around the nation, because they were not only in the Northwest, a team was also in the Littoral region and all the 10 regions of this country, trying to expatiate on how we must live, create an environment of justice, an environment of fairness, an environment of equality, which falls within the terms of reference of the Multiculturalism and Bilingualism Commission. But I think that this commission should really move from a commission of implementing government policy to a commission that can be able to come out with its own policies and ratify them in a way that they can have a direct impact on the population. Because at the level of which they are now, they are just a commission that implements what they have been told to do. They cannot act directly towards implementing their terms of reference. Notwithstanding, we are saying that we laud the initiative of the government this time around, considering the state of affairs in this country. Now we are going through this high level of insecurity because of the atmosphere in the Northwest and Southwest regions, and I think that, as I earlier said, their tour is very timely and it's a stitch in time.
Okay, very timely. Tata, being low, are we into what we are today because of the absence of love, as articulated by Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle? We steal because we don't love, we hate because we don't love, we insult because we don't love?
Well, I think just as our panelist,
Mr. Shunneh?
Mr. Shunneh said, love cuts across all backgrounds of life. That's true. And as a leader who is looking up to taking the challenge someday, I think leadership should be built on love. But now, what we face today is not really true love, because it's a kind of, there is party love, there is, you know, colleagues in offices, they share the same love, but out of that, to the common man on the street, the Cameroonian on the street, there's much more to be done when it comes to love, because we talk of love, but there are people out there, we pass on the streets every day, we know that most of them are not there because they choose to be there, but it's because of the policies of the state that does not give room to every Cameroonian, or give every Cameroonian a place under the sun. Why do I say this? For example, most of us who left the university far back in 2009, for example, University of Boya, I meet most of my mates around who were very, very intelligent, smart in class, and those are people who were looking up to that the future of this country belongs to them. But because of, you know, that conditional love, there are people now in offices occupying positions that belongs to these people. So if we want to be honest about solving problems, let's start by being truthful to ourselves, especially our government. We cannot be preaching love and you're practicing the opposite.
He talked about justice and equity.
Yes, which is not true. As we all know, there is no justice and equity in Cameroon. Justice belongs to a particular group, a particular party, particular individuals, and we already know this. It's not something to come and start naming or listing here. But I'm just saying that if we are being honest to ourselves, we should understand that you cannot go out to preach love, whereas you are not giving it even to your own immediate surrounding. Leaving Yaoundé to Bamenda is a good thing. Preaching love and xenophobia is good. We don't want to be like South Africa, for sure, because before they got to that point, things like this were happening. So to me, if we want to solve this problem of hate speech, let's be honest to Cameroonians. Let's do things the right way.
Okay.
You won't need to go preach about hate speech if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, but the Ntumfor that you know is somebody who actually does not hide his feelings. He says it the way he is, and he's in Douala here with us and not from Yaoundé. When you listen to him, he says the basis of this campaign, that if we are coming to preach bilingualism, it is only going to make sense if we are sincere, we have integrity, there is justice, there is love in what we're doing. Without which, because he says it very well, that without this, then we are wasting our time.
You know, when it comes to Ntumfor, is a statement that I hold in high esteem, and I always say this when I was in university, that in anything I see Barrister Ntumfor, I will support without even thinking twice, because it's someone that has a high level of moral values. And if you look at their visit to Bamenda, I'm sure this is now the second phase, because the first phase has always been the phase of talking to government officials. Now they are moving down to the people, now to talk to the people. I'm sure after talking to the people, they'll get back to the state officials and say, okay, these were some of the challenges that the people enumerated, which we can focus and move love. And it reminds me the visit is timely, and it should be appreciated and should be encouraged and supported, because it reminds me of the second stanza of Cameroon's anthem. Instill in them the love and gentle ways, regard of errors of the past. So when you instill in them the love of gentle ways, you regard the errors of the past. It tells you that the love of gentle ways, what is our love? The love of gentle ways is strive on justice, social and economic justice. The love and gentle ways strive on equality. The love and gentle ways strive on the ability to let go, the ability to see into your brother and your sister as first a human being. we are all bound by one common factor. What we call the lowest common multiple is that we're all human beings. Whether you are black, whether you are brown, because to me there's no white human being. Whether you are black, you are brown, whether you have which kind of color, we are all bound by the fact that we're human being. And in that human being, we are centered on love, because he quoted that love, he quoted the Bible, and the same Bible says, for God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son, that whosoever believe in him will not perish but will have life everlasting. So they going out to this community is to ensure that they get to the community and explain to them that there is bilingualism, which is the language part of it. Now, if we are promoting this language part of it, we should be conscious and be aware that there are some factors that may hinder the promotion of these languages that will now be based on hate speech. And we cannot talk about the fight against hate speech if we are not able to love our neighbors and we love ourselves. I will align myself, both I will agree and disagree on my two brothers here, because first I want to go to the side of Mr. Shunneh, which he articulated that this is coming at a time when we really need it. Yes, we need it, but the factor of it is that what kind of love are we preaching? The kind of love has been segmented into threefold in Cameroon. We have threefold of love. Now, as he said, that justice, and know that his message is not only centered towards the people of the Northwest and South, but also on authorities. Because if you must love, it must come with equality. What level of equality are you preaching? Because Mr. Shunneh made mention of something which is quite good, that the people of Northwest and Southwest felt there were no love. Some people felt there were no love. That's why we have what we have. And because of that, it has not now caused what is we are experiencing as an armed conflict, which in essence had metamorphosed in different phases of terrorism, kidnapping, and the rest, which we can no longer handle. Now, for us to rebuild, we have to come back to what the Abrahamic word of MacDermot, which was preached by the Ethiopian Prime Minister when he won the Nobel Peace Prize. MacDermot simply means making use of the best of our past and bringing forward a new culture that best suits our current context. And what is that new culture? The new culture of the common man in the Northwest and Southwest region is to ensure that the guns stop smoking, is to ensure that they go to the table, is to ensure that they talk as brothers and sisters, is to ensure that they form a new culture of Cameroonians that will instill in them the love and gentle ways. Because there is another aspect in our anthem that really strike me. Dear fatherland, thy worth no tongue can tell. How can we ever pay thy due? Thy welfare we will win in love and peace and unity. Now, when we are preaching this love, that is the center of our anthem. But how do we push the people not to buy the preaching? That's another thing, because you have talked to them, but there's what called, and if to every action there's an equal but opposite reaction. Because when you are giving, you need to get them to receive. How will they receive?
How would they receive? Mr. Shunneh, we are talking about a campaign with the objective of preaching against hate speech and xenophobia. Where do we place the fact that we all are striving for unity, we all are striving for peace to return, yet the words that proceed from our mouth are not loving, they are not moderate, they are so harsh. We see very harsh words being thrown from right to left, and yet everybody is preaching for peace. Everybody says we want peace, we want normalcy, we want everything. How do we achieve that without preaching love and forgiveness?
That's fundamentally true. Love is the greatest of all. But there is this status quo where Cameroonians were caught in a limbo right from childhood in their pre-nursery, primary, secondary, and higher education. They know very little about the history of their own country. So the patriotism that they have for their country, that is bona fide to every citizen of any country, is that theirs is fallacious. It is uncalled for that Cameroonians who grew up studying European history and know little of their own country can be able to show 100% love for that country that they know little or nothing about. what binds many Cameroonians today and what makes Cameroonians take decisions today, their decisions are based on, I'll call it synchronized benefits. Most people take decisions today based on their jobs. I have a job, I'm working for the government, so I have to protect the interests of the government to be able to protect my job. I am a Catholic. The Catholic stands with the position of the government, and as a staunch Catholic, I must support the interests of the church and stand with the government. I am a traditional authority. I am an auxiliary of the government, and because I had received stipend or salary from the government, I must stand with this government and my people must stand with me. People take decisions based on interest. I call it synchronized interest. Whereas, if we knew our country so very well and loved our country like the way we love our jobs, love our country like the way we love our spouses, love our country as we have to love your neighbor as you love yourself, we would treat our country with that level of patriotism whereby our decisions will not be based on only our egocentric feelings, but it will be based on a national and a global thinking. So my point of view is that we still have to school so many Cameroonians on be able to love their nation, because civic education wasn't inculcated into our educational system in a way that we have that strong patriotic approach.
But Mr. Shunneh, how do you love your nation without first loving your neighbor?
That is what I'm talking about. Because when you start by loving your neighbor, you will love your nation. And how do you love your neighbor? By loving your nation, because you must belong to a nation before you can have a neighbor to belong to because before you can have a neighbor. I hope you understand me.
Okay.
Ironically, I think a neighbor
before
is a nation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are settled under the canopy of a nation, because that nation gives us protection.
Okay. If you love your nation, you would know that hurting a brother is hurting the nation. So if you love the nation, you will not hurt anybody. Yes,
Right.
yes. So let us, since it was a stock-taking mission also to the Northwest, let's get a reaction from the Northwest Regional Delegate of Communication, also express some of their worries when it comes to bilingualism, providing documents that are truly bilingual to the people of the region.
Make sure that the organizational chart of the delegation, of the Ministry of Communication and other ministries, which I know do not have translation units at the regional level, be inserted the department or unit of translation. So regional delegations, just as well as that of communication, there should be translation units. Unfortunately, the organigram of the regional delegation of communication does not provide translation unit at the regional level. So I'm suggesting that it's very, very difficult for us to work. Even when I put that document on the forum for divisional delegates, it was kind of working.
Okay. It's trying to make a proposal, given the very difficult situation in which they find themselves. Everybody wants translated documents, but he is saying that there is need to restructure the way things work and make sure that a translation unit is included in the organogram of all the ministries and their respective regional delegations, so that at that level they can readily translate some of these documents before sending them out. You also see with him?
Yes, to an extent I do agree with him. But in the first place, leadership begins with those in power. I've read a lot of decrees from the head of state, basically in French. I've seen a lot of documents from state ministers, basically in French. But now when it comes to the challenges, we rush to the Northwest region You know, sometimes I always say when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. Now, it is funny to go to the grass and preach peace or seek solutions which should come from those two elephants fighting. We have this problem of bilingualism in Cameroon. It owes back to our history. Now, we have English and French. That's true. And the percentage of Francophones is about 80% over Anglophones. Automatically, it gives French an upper hand. But Cameroon being a bilingual country, the language remains bilingual, English and French. So all official documents, beginning from the presidency of the Republic, should follow suit because it's defined by the Constitution. But unfortunately, we want the people to practice what we, the leaders, are not teaching them.
Yeah, but is that not exactly what the regional delegate is saying? Yeah, that there is need to create these departments at the level of all the ministries, and that it should move down to the regions.
Yes, we are seeking solutions, of course. Well, I'm just adding to what he said. So I think it's true we should put these units in all ministries, and there should be a follow-up. Then when people go to Yaoundé to follow up their documents, they face difficulties, especially pension files. Everything comes in a language that they are not familiar with, and there is nobody to help them. And this results to hate speech because we start getting officials referring to some people as, these ones are Anglophones, these ones are from Bamenda. That's where hate speech begins from the document. So if we do not tactically solve these issues at the administrative level, we don't expect the citizens who are helpless to bring forth solutions. So we can't be going to the citizens to find solutions, whereas we should provide solutions that will help every Cameroonian. So that's my contribution.
That's your contribution. Good evening, honorable panel. So much has been said about hate speech, insult. A child even beat him, but give him what he needs. Justice, equal opportunities, no discrimination, no tribalism, no nepotism, no favoritism like some divisions in the South that every year back home, public investment budgets that the Northwest and Southwest together don't have, even in 5 years, is worse than hate speech. You are simply telling the favored divisions, regions, that they are more Cameroonians than others. Hence, the pride of temptation to practice hate speech, and our government is guilty of creating this atmosphere. And Kesa Emmanuel is writing from Fundong. Mr. Liu, love should be preached more in Central and South regions, in short, in the 8 other regions where we call Anglophones le Bamenda and sometimes le Nigérien. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Renex speaking. I really love your show, and it is interesting. Hope best for your show. Thank you. Okay, we also thank you for wishing us the best. We're talking about the difficulties, but are we also, these guys, they're suffering at the local level because things are made difficult at the level of Yaoundé, because if you facilitate the process and then everything flows.
Remember, Mr. Shunneh quietly put it clear during his introductory statement that this body should be empowered because as of now it's an advisory body. It's not like the National Communication Council, which is an independent regulatory body that has the power to act on or to hammer if people are going astray, because we've had a lot of instances where top government officials, middle government officials, within the ranks of the common man make hate speech and xenophobic utterances on TV, on social media, and this commission, if they had the power, they would have quickly reacted or react as the National Communication Council is reacting. Because if you see what the National Communication Council is doing, they react spontaneously without passing through the Ministry of Communication, simply because they are now an independent regulatory body that has the mandate to protect the communication space, to ensure that people don't use hate speech or to go out of their deontology. Now, if that same mandate is given to the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission, you will see a rapid drop in hate speech on the social media, on television, and in meeting houses, because people are not facing the consequence. People make utterances and it takes far too long before they are addressed. And because of that, it motivates others to even do the same. So, going back now to the people on the ground is to tell the people that we have the advisory role to advise you on certain things that you should put in place for convivial living and for you to live together. And this must first start with you as an individual. Remember that before we hold state authorities accountable, as a person, we hold that social responsibility to harness love and to preach love, because it begins with a spark before it moves. Because, for example, we all are in this studio. If I don't show Mr. Shunneh love or my brother on the other side love, it will now move to a big different level where it moves now to what we call the transfer of aggression. Now, if you are happy, you move to the next person beside you with the joy and happiness. It flows. But if you are sad, you move to the next person with maybe rage, and the next person misinterprets it. So in this context, therefore, the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission should be given the independent role that they can axe or hammer when there is an action against the Republic in terms of hate speech, xenophobia, in terms of utterances that are not in conformity with the protection of national integrity and unification. There is also one thing that I want to align myself again with Mr. Shunneh. He rightly put it out that people who are occupying top position don't actually do what is expected of them, but they use it in the context that they want to please the government or please their party or want to have their money. I go back to Prime Minister Abiy. He said when he was receiving his Nobel Peace Prize that when our love for humanity outgrows our love for human vanity, then we start experiencing peace. Now, if our love for humanity outgrows the love for human vanity, we shall experience love, we shall experience peace. And he also said, very important, aligning myself now to that of Barrister Ntumfor, which is social justice. He said, Abiy said, the best way to ensure that there is no peace in a country is to deny the youth social and economic justice. Because when you deny them social and economic justice, you are pushing them to hatred. They will not adopt hatred, they will not adopt hate speech. And so that he said every nation, every leader owes that responsibility to fight for social and economic justice such that unity, love can strive in their nation. And when we see what Barrister Ntumfor and the rest are doing, we only pray that it should not just end at this level of just moving to within the region. They should also have what it takes to push the people, like motivate the people to say, okay, maybe we are putting reward of the best community that promotes love or living together, or maybe we are organizing, we are providing scholarship to some people who have been outstanding in terms of preaching love within the community. I don't know, but they should look at some mechanism.
Okay, for the services that are most bilingual in the regions.
Yes, services that are more bilingual.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Liu and the crew members. Mr. Liu, Cameroon has a lot to do. Isimo is writing from Tico. Good evening to you, Isimo. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Why are you not inviting the kangaroo man in the studio? Is everything all right? Yes, everything is all right. The kangaroo man is now the editor-in-chief of High TV in Boya. So he works for High TV in Boya. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Do you know, as we speak right now, integration decision still comes out in French from the beginning till the end? French, no English. So where is the bilingualism? Okay. Yes, that is also what we are discussing here, that things should be looked into at the level of Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu and crew, watching the program and keep asking myself, can love exist without justice? I see anyone preaching love or peace without justice as a hypocrite. The Bible in this Psalm, justice shall go before you and peace will follow in its steps. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. More grace to you. Barrister Ntumfor is a honorable statesman of this nation. Recall that before the crisis, Barrister Ntumfor had been the only Anglophone elite who openly admitted there was an Anglophone problem in Cameroon. Okay, and for you, either is sister or brother who says that anybody preaching love and peace is a hypocrite, I don't know. Jesus Christ, oh God, forgive all your sins. God did not say until you pay to the last penny before he forgives you. So I'm sure that if God forgave you and you go to church and you preach that I love you, God, and God has forgiven you, it means that you are also a hypocrite. We have received forgiveness from God. We should learn to also forgive others. Yes, Mr. Shunneh, we're talking about bilingualism, but he raised the issue of giving competence, authority to this organ to be able to, why not even hammer on defaulters? Because there is a law that forbids this, hate speech.
Yes, Mr. Leo, as he articulated, I earlier brought this to light that the National Commission of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism should be moved from an advisory board to a regulatory board. And we cited that of the National Commission for Communications. And in a way whereby they can be able to sanction defaulters, firmly as it is being done in the National Communications Council. And it's a clarion call to the government of this country. I think they see the way media houses are operating now with a very professional status. And I think if they like or they love the mission of the Commission for Multiculturalism and Bilingualism to meet its terms of reference, they should uplift it from an advisory board to a regulatory board, so that they can be able to make a follow-up on the advisory rules that they play. Because it is said that if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. And once we know that we share love, we love our children, but you must always have that rod behind them to be able to let them know that, hey, you have to toe the line. If you go off the line, you can be punished. And I think this is the role that the Commission on Multiculturalism and Bilingualism should play. So it should be uplifted from an advisory board to a regulatory board, and then empower them to be able to do more, because they have gone a very long way in their sensitization. And I think that they should give them the opportunity to go towards implementation, both positively and negatively.
Okay, positively and negatively. Let's get another delegate also react to what actually took place out there in Bomaine, the Northwest Regional Capital.
Translation at our level, there is a dire need for a translation unit, so as to make the translation authentic. We give out from the regional delegation. They go out in both languages. Well, at times we translate them if the necessity becomes urgent. We translate at our level. And I want to underline phones and one phone. And in the office, we communicate in both languages. I can speak in English, and some other person responds in French. If there is a problem, we concert and find a way out. As decentralization and local development is concerned, bilingualism so far is not posing a real problem, because I have a staff. The staff is relatively bilingual, and should there be a problem,
Okay, we're looking at the delegate there says that they are struggling to also ensure that they put out things in French and in English, and that they also communicate, because seemingly everybody in the level of his delegation understands some French and English, and how they manage with this. But how do we get Cameroonians concretely bilingual?
Well, first of all, I think the commission being in place is a first step towards bilingualism. But as I said earlier, it remains the responsibility of the government, the leadership of the country, to put in mechanisms to facilitate bilingualism in the country. And we should learn to practice what we preach. For example, these are government officials lamenting, crying, posing problems that should be posed by a layman in the street. Now I begin to ask myself, if a regional delegate cries out about documents from his service being in a particular language or the difficulty in having bilingualism, I start wondering, I start doubting, what about someone who doesn't even have a position and is struggling to get a job? So this is one of the reasons I said the love we are preaching is not true, because if it is true, we begin by solving basic problems for the common man. If we can't solve a problem for a common man, we can't preach peace to that common man. He won't listen. So when there is justice, equity, and if the government takes the responsibility of facilitating solving these problems, that's why we vote them in the first place, to solve these problems. So don't come out and cry to us again. Go to your bosses and tell them this is a problem we are facing. We need units in our services. And decentralization is not effective in this case, because regional delegations and divisional delegates should be empowered to follow up documents coming from their areas of jurisdiction. Why should a regional delegate forward a document in a particular language, whereas it is his responsibility to ensure that this document should be properly presented to all Cameroonians and all services in both languages? So the problem begins right from there. If you can't solve that as an administrator appointed to provide those solutions, what will a common man on the street do? You're crying to the wrong people. We can't provide those solutions.
Okay,
I want to add to what he just said, because for us to get effective bilingualism, we must strive by ensuring that we do what we say and we say what we do. We walk the talk. And this begins from top to bottom, not from bottom to top now. On this level, we're expecting it to move from top to bottom. But if we want economic growth, we expect from bottom to top. Now, in promoting language, I want to pray that someday he becomes the president of Cameroon, because I have a problem first with the English and French. I have a problem. But since this is the mandate of, this is what the current regime stands for, I will support it. That the English and French as official languages. I have a problem, because if you go to the Northwest and Southwest region, the majority of people speak Pidgin. That's their language. Now, if we are saying that we are preaching for bilingualism and multiculturalism, this commission first, I believe they should first of all go back to the drawing board and look for a national language of Cameroon. What represents us as Cameroonian? Because we don't have a national language. English and French is not a national language. Today you will hear people commonly say, this man is Anglophone. My mother has never gone to a school. She has never seen the four walls of a school. She does not know how to speak English language, but she will be addressed as an Anglophone. She knows her Pidgin. She knows her Way language. She knows her mainstream languages. Now, I believe that if bilingualism, you preach the language that the people want to hear. The people use hate speech in their vernaculars. Most often, you hear somebody, for example, if Mr. Shunneh is not from Way Village, if I'm talking to him and I use my language and insult him, he will not know. Yeah. Now, how do we fight a hate speech in a language? We use a language which the people don't understand well, that they should fight hate speech. I believe, as Cameroonian, we must have a unanimous language that represents us. If bring the Wondo, we learn it. Bring the whichever language you think that can represent Cameroon as Cameroonians. So I believe that Bilingualism Commission should look for that language or languages, 2 or 3, that represents Cameroon. Go to East Africa, Swahili. Kiswahili is spoken everywhere in East Africa, and that is who they are. In such a way that if you are teaching them in Kiswahili, they quickly understand than the English. Of course, English is an official language. So I believe that as Ntumfor and his team move down to the quarters, to the villages, they will mostly express themselves in Pidgin. And remember, when you are translating the words to another word, it lost its main essence. If you have to go for the language you have to call television, you have to use descriptive pronouns, because television was not there at the time the language existed. If you want to call water, it's now you can use one word. But if we are promoting hate, we are fighting against hate speech, we have to talk to the people the language you understand. And I believe this should not only end at the level of the VC, they should also use the media. They should also come up with programs in Pidgin. They should come up with programs with the different languages, such that we record these programs, we send on WhatsApp, the people understand in the Bakwere, people understand, the people from Sawa understand, the people in these languages, so that we can bring forth unity. So
now,
we should decentralize it.
This commission actually is bilingualism and multiculturalism. Now, that is an aspect, what can we say today is the Cameroonian culture?
Mr. Leo, we must agree here without any fear of contradiction or favor that Cameroon is a blessed nation. And I told one of my pastor friends in one of our public debates that Cameroon is Babylon of the Bible. When the people built the tower and they wanted to go and meet God, and when God broke the tower, they came down and they were speaking in different vernaculars. They couldn't understand themselves. We have more than 500 vernaculars in this country with more than 365 different tribes. It becomes difficult for us to pick one of those vernaculars to use as a national language. And this falls within the terms of reference of the Commission for Multiculturalism and Bilingualism to promote and hold in equal status all the cultures and languages of this country. And I think they are doing it to the best of their ability. But the undertone of this language issue in this country is the inability of the people to accept the social contract of Jean-Jacques Rousseau between the government and the people. Because English and French are our two official languages. But if you look into the subsystem of education of French Cameroon, you hear people have bac Espanol. They are full on the streets. They speak English, they speak Espanol, but Espanol has nothing to do with the language of this country. You have people who have bac Allemand. They articulate German to the best of their ability. What of all I just cited, bac Allemand, bac Espanol. The English is a national language of this country, and those people cannot even pronounce or formulate 10 good sentences in English. There's a controversy. There is a problem. It has a political undertone. Why do you create a subsection of education system where people learn Spanish, they learn German, but they are not able to understand and learn the national language of their country?
Why not choose? Okay, if we study Espanol, Allemand, I don't know, Latin.
Yeah, I've not heard about that one.
And I hear Chinese now is being taught.
Yes.
Yes. So if we can study these things, why not also choose four key,
like in Nigeria,
four key languages and teach?
Yes.
Okay. Like
to valorize
valorize it. But from my perspective, I was coming, I said it is deliberate.
Okay.
It's something deliberate. Because anyway, the head of state, in whom I trust in his clairvoyance, accepted that they wanted to assimilate but didn't succeed. So we are coming together as one nation. We are bringing back the broken pieces. We are moving forward because Cameroon is one and indivisible. That is not disputed anyway. I am saying that it is a political will to be able to talk to the people. Because if you go down there in Bonaberi, you find all those indigenous, those Douala indigenous inhabitants, they speak Pidgin 100%.
Of course.
You go to Suza.
You go to Suza, Kongsamba.
You go to, even in the West region, all those mothers.
Because language is the easiest thing to learn. And language is the easiest thing to teach somebody. But what you understand is that people have that adamant attitude not to learn a particular language in this country. And you ask them why, you wouldn't know. It's a lack of the acceptance of the social contract. That once it is addressed politically, We will not even need translators in any government office or private office.
Yeah.
Cameroonians will freely learn English and French when this social contract will be respected. I rest my case.
Okay, this is going to be respected. Now, the Northwest and the Southwest regions are going through a situation today, and we're talking about multiculturalism. How do we make the respective cultures, like he said, because he says that their role is to make sure that each one is given equal status and value. Yes, but is that possible?
Well, it is possible because
can this nation not decide to also identify with a national language away from English and French?
Well, I think it's a very difficult situation, given that we have a diverse background. If we understand our migratory history, lots of us settled in Cameroon from different areas. And when we came in, we brought in different cultural practices, values, and languages. So now, why would you think that an Ewondo man will accept Nsah for a national language? And why will Bassa accept Limbum as a national language? So if we bring in this aspect, we are simply trying to divide more. We are not constructing. Now, our history has it that we got our languages from our colonial masters. It even started with German, the German language. I think the Spanish came first, and when they were not interested in annexing Cameroon, the Germans came. We started with the German language, and when the Germans were defeated during the Second World War, English and French was now adopted as our national languages. And it keeps being an issue because this is something assimilated on us. It wasn't a voluntary language we had chosen to use as a people, as a nation. But now, some people are using it to their own advantage and at the detriment of the minority. The Francophones are using French, as the mother language at the detriment of English. Now, if we also reverse it today, let English come first in all presidential decrees, we should have English language, ministerial documents should come in English. Let's see how that feeling is reciprocated by the Francophones. So this is where we have a problem. And if we want to fix things, let us be just. If there is justice, we won't need to leave Yaoundé to go and preach peace in Bamenda. Those in Bamenda know, they know how to preach, they know how to practice peace, but do the right thing. And the worst part is those who are even involved in these are not part of the process. We are talking here, many of them are not following up, they are not listening. So it doesn't even make sense because at the end of the day, we are talking to ourselves. Those who are concerned are there in the bushes. This love message won't get to them. So the target is wrong. Let us do the right thing for once and fix this country. Let's face the problem, solve the problem.
But we cannot say that we are speaking to the wrong, because we have so many persons who have gotten jobs, their lives have been touched, and because they watch the TV. You cannot be on TV and say you're
sorry, that was an overstatement.
Yeah.
I partially disagree with the fact that it's difficult to have a national language. Togo, dressing, was accepted generally as the identity of Cameroon. That's a dressing. So a language cannot be.
Anyway, officially, it is not.
That's why none of us dress in the Togo attire, because it's optional.
Yes.
Those who have the sour culture, they put on their shirts.
What he is saying that severally we have seen the nation decide to adopt this.
Togo.
Whether you are from the center, south, it is a policy, and everybody adheres to it.
I wish to see the head of state put it on as the number one statement.
So that's what I'm saying. It's not that I said partially. I'm not saying fully disagree with you. Partially. Now, again with languages, if you do a small survey in the northwest, in the southwest, in some part of littoral, you will understand that the key issues where people easily identify themselves is pidgin. Now, let's say it's difficult to adopt Pidgin as a language, right? What if we say, okay, let's also look at some of the key languages in some of this area and see how we can form a unanimous language that can represent us. Let me come. Nigeria is a key example. We see we hear Igbo, Yoruba, and the rest, but there's the proliferation of tribes in Nigeria with different languages. But
none of them is official.
No, Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, they are taught in schools. They are taught in schools. Even in Kenya, they have the Kiswahili, but there's other villages that have different languages that are not Kiswahili. We are not saying that it's difficult. Well, we are not saying that it's also easy. But what we are saying is that if we have the goodwill, that okay, we shall decide to adopt, let's say in the northwest or in the north and southwest, we adopt two. In the two, we do zoning. In this other region, we do similar. For example, the man in Nsah and in Wimbom, they have a synonymous kind of way. Ewane JK almost the same, Baneke almost the same. Yeah. The man in Sawa in Bakwere, the man in Meme, Sawa, Bakwere, Meme almost have the same in terms of their languages. So what if we do zoning? What if we say, okay, if this is difficult, why not promote Pidgin? Why not? Is it not a language? We can promote it.
Yeah, but what is primitive in Pidgin? Is it us
Yes.
who decides, or some people will define what we should? Are we not the ones to decide what we should?
Actually, history.
Why do we?
If I may come in.
Yeah.
What is wrong in the English in the first place that we speak? What is wrong in the French in the first place? What is wrong in it? And what is wrong in your way language that you speak, in my Bafut language I speak, in your, is it Banike or Lamso that you speak? It makes us more intelligent than even the Westerners, because I'm able to speak Bafut, I'm able to speak French, I'm able to speak English, I'm able to speak Pidgin. I don't know, and what have you? What's the problem? Why should we be creating other languages? The bottom line is that we should be able to communicate properly in a civilized society and a civilized community, while promoting our local languages at the level of which they are. Why are we resentful about English or French? What is the problem about English or French?
I did not learn. I was about to learn. I did not learn. The truth is, I'm not against English and French, but let's be very honest. Cameroon, a Cameroonian studied in the University of Boya. Once a scholarship abroad, they'll ask he or she to write TOEFL. Which language did he or she study? Because they understand that your primary language is not the English and French. Ask him, how did he call a vehicle in his dialect? Descriptive. Why? Because they existed, his dialect existed before the vehicle was created. Why do we say certain kind of people have a kind of accent when they speak? Because we cannot take that away from them. We cannot. And the people we easily understand in their language than the English and French. We're not saying something is wrong with it, but it's difficult to preach technology using English and French to someone that understands his Lamso, someone that understands his way. That's where the Chinese beat us. That's where the other nations beat us, because we will do what is called a translation in our brain before we adopt it. It's like, and me trying to understand French or speak French. My original language is Pidgin. I take from Pidgin, I quickly translate in my brain in English, quickly translate in my brain in Pidgin, in French, before I speak it. So there is you take a longer process, whether we like it or not. What we are saying, I'm not saying that it must be adopted, I'm just saying that we can look at other possibilities as a people to form one common culture. And briefly now, to conclude on this, you made mention of the fact, which I align myself with it on it, is that if we must do that, if you don't provide some access, some basic services, it's also hate speech, which is true. Because when you see what Barrister Ntumfor and his team are addressing is direct violence. But in conflict, we have three forms: structural violence, cultural violence, and direct violence. Structural violence is when a certain group of people feel they are more superior than others. And because they are more superior, they feel everything should come from them. Everything to come to them, and so they determine what you should have. And that is so dangerous, because it promotes hate speech and leads to direct violence. Now, they should start addressing structural violence too. Cultural violence is when a group of people believe. Structural violence is when government decide to not to provide some services to those that in need, like hospitals, electricity, water, and the rest. Some people in the villages, their drinking water is our water we use to flush our toilet is clean, very clean. There are some of the villages, the water they use in drinking. And that is structural violence. Whereas cultural violence, some group of people feel they are more superior than others. And this now leads us to direct violence. So I believe that in terms of preaching what they are preaching, they should focus on these three arms, on the structural, and the cultural, and the direct. The structural, they get to the state and authorities. The cultural, now they get to opinion leaders in the community. And the now direct violence is what they are doing to the field. And that's why you see it's more on northwest and southwest, because there's direct violence.
And this boils down to what I just explained. That is, the bottom line is a political will. That if we go by your definition of structural violence, when some people think that they are more superior to others, and cultural violence, that some people think that they are more superior than others, and decisions should come from them. It boils down to one of the reasons why we have this language problem in this country. It's nothing about translation. It's because some people think that they are superior than others. And so the other people must speak their own language. And they cannot go down to speak their own language. That is exactly what I'm talking about. It has nothing to do with interpretation or interpreters or whatsoever. Once we resolve this political will, this problem of language in this country will die a natural death. And to conclude, I want to thank you so very much for coming up with the issue of the Togo, because it's one of my domains of competence. I'm a cultural promoter. I'm actually organizing a Togo festival in this country that will take place in Bonaberi on the 17th of December 2022. We want to promote, preserve, and revalorize the Togo traditional dress, which originated from the Grassfield people, but it's now a national and international attire.
We shall be.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to add to what he said, to do a small analysis. Now, I lived and worked in Thailand for 10 years. If I should tell you that there are more than 2,000 Cameroonians in Thailand teaching English language, would you believe? Now, I don't want to go to China and other countries around the world. Why? Because English language has played an important role in our lives. So we cannot undermine the importance of English language as an official language. Likewise, French. There are Cameroonians out there teaching French in all parts of the world, even in Africa. So, and when we talk about official languages, it means the language that is used for communication, both verbally and documentation. There exist many other languages. That is not disputed, but the fact is English and French should be used in official documents as well as communication. Now this, it opens Cameroon to the world, because we are able to do international relations, bilateral cooperations. All these things are done using these languages. If we bring our tribal languages in play as an official language, how do we communicate out of Cameroon?
Art. We're not saying remove art. What the Kenyans, they use Kiswahili as official language.
You won't deny the fact that even though they use that, their official language internationally is English.
Yeah, we say they add. We are adding. We are not subtracting English and French. I apply for scholarships, or we have to apply for scholarship. Pure degree all in English, but they still have to go and do TOEFL.
Right.
Why?
Because English is not your first
language.
Good.
It is considered that English is not your first language. Out there, it is known that Cameroon is a French-speaking country. And it's because of the government. That's why I blame the government. Because the government has presented us as francophones, whereas we are not.
If I may add, with the permission of Mr. Leonard, if I may just add, I beg your pardon. English, French, those are the two languages that are used in science and research. Globally. You can't discuss biology in Swahili.
Great.
You cannot discuss aeronautical science in Swahili.
The Chinese.
You cannot discuss aeronautical engineering in Mandara.
Russia.
They are just adopting it. Those are the languages of research and science.
Okay. I want us to address this issue of the campaign that was in the southwest and the northwest region, but we also understand that hate speech is so much on the social media, so much. How do we address members of the social media, Mr. Shunneh?
Yes, Mr. Liu, I would say that the social media is a platform par excellence for the exhibition of hate speech. Why? Because public communication is just new in Africa, and public communication through social media is something that is fantasizing everybody. You bear with me that before the coming of the social media, the only mediums of communication, of public communication, was the TV and the radio. And not everybody had access to TV and radio to communicate. So when they have open and free space to speak, they speak beyond their imagination. They speak beyond their thinking. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So that's why you see governments have now understood this, and they are coming now with social media regulatory organs to be able to curb the way people speak on social media. But somebody in the comfort of his room thinks that he can just propagate hate speech at his convenience, which it goes beyond political, cultural, economic, social, and what have you. But as a matter of fact, it is really alarming, and I think governments and even management bodies of social media companies are also engaged in a very strong fight. There are some posts that when it goes so violent, they block you from being able to post it. But in mediums like WhatsApp, Yango, and the rest, it's difficult to block. So it moves from person to person. And I think at the level of Cameroon where we are talking, the government has been trying to send messages to people's phones to notify them that if you are caught propagating hate speech and xenophobic and violence on social media, you will be punished. It moves from fines of 500,000 to even 2 to 5 years imprisonment. I don't know how effective it is working, but I know it goes a long way to enlighten the population about doing ethical communication, being responsible in the way we respond to messages and the way we pass out messages. But I think it is a clarion call. The social media is a platform par excellence for exhibition of xenophobic and hate speech.
Now, you are a politician, or you want to be the president of the republic. I don't know how you followed the bitter exchanges between political parties in Cameroon. We see the rivalry. Apostle Ambe actually describes it as witchcraft. Witchcraft is no longer politics that is being practiced in Cameroon. So much hate, so much insult, bitterness. How do you think the Bilingualism Commission can address that? Should they now call for a meeting for political party leaders so that they can school their militants, or how?
Yes, I think it's very important to organize workshops, seminars for politicians on the political character, because that also constitutes leadership. Your temperament, you should be able sometimes to know when to talk and when not to talk. You know, it becomes childish when, you go after every post, after every comment to react. As a politician, you should. One of the things I admire our head of state, President Paul Biya, is his level of maturity. Though at his age he should be mature, but in tackling issues like this, I think he inspires me a lot. You must not respond to what people say, because being a leader, you must be criticized. You should be open. Sometimes it happens to me too. I'm just an upcoming politician, but I'm already facing some of those things. But when it's essential, I go to your inbox and say, "Good evening, sir. The comments you made, I don't know if it's an attack or what, but I think we don't have a problem. If you really have a problem with me being into politics, I'm sorry about that. I didn't cause myself to be." And at the end, we become friends. You know, there are ways you can also handle these things. You must not go, because someone has attacked you, you must pay back. No. So we have to conduct ourselves as leaders. You want to lead, you want to be a leader. Even just as a father in the house, you face a lot of criticism, sometimes from your own family. You should be able to welcome these things and deal with them. This advice is common in politics. So my advice is, I think our politicians need some schooling on this. And the head of state, who is an expert in that, should organize and summon all of us and coach us is also important for leadership. They should leave behind a regime that is responsible.
Okay, regime that is responsible, but the political parties themselves, the picture you paint to the population also tells about their capacity to, because when every day you say the government, it should come from the government, it should come from the government, how do you tell the people that you can do better than the government?
I think we have there are two ways to look at this situation. First, before social media, we had laws that focused mainly on the traditional media because we didn't have social media. So in the 1881 French law that became applicable in 1929 in French Cameroon, which did not give room for freedom of speech and expression, and when unification came in with the Nigerian newspaper ordinance law that gave room for freedom of speech, we had to manage it too. But now in 1972, when we had to amalgamate the 1966 draconian law that came into place, press law that came into place that made things so difficult for freedom of speech, Cameroonians were a bit worried. But now when President Biya came in, and in 1990, when there was liberalization of freedom of expression, where a new communication policy was brought in, with the freedom of speech and expression, now a lot of political parties used this wrongly. And we started experiencing also within the communication field, yellow journalism, partisan journalism, junk journalism, journalism of excesses, where people misunderstood the concept of freedom of speech and expression to be freedom of attack. And then we now had laws now that regulate the media about pre and post publication censorship because there was no social media. Now there is now this need for our lawmakers to look into the social media fair and now start coming up with laws that regulate our social media and punishes defaulters within the state of Cameroon. And we see in US, they call these social media giants constantly are being called to the Congress. So what are you doing to protect our space? What are you doing to do this? But we don't see that in Cameroon. And we also have these difficulties now because some people now attack based on their languages. So it's difficult for the social media algorithm that reads English and French to quickly identify that this is a language that this person has written is a hate speech or this and that and that. To the other side of it now, these politicians now also have the social responsibility to understand that whatever you are doing on social media, it is telling the people, your would-be supporters, about how you can govern the nation. Because if you respond to attack by attacking, it tells us that you're irresponsible. You cannot lead the nation. Before you said about what you said about President Biya, that has always been my stand on President Biya. I love his humility in terms of, and also his tolerance when it comes to communication, because people just throw words out there and he takes his time. So if we as politicians must grow this nation, we must understand that love for one another, the ability that you must, if you disagree with me, I must not attack you. That's democracy. Democracy is a clash of ideas, and not by fight, not by force. Yeah. It's a clash of ideas because you and I, we want to go to Frengu Jombange. I believe that when we go take left, we get to Frengu Jombange in 5 minutes. You say no, when we take right, we get to Frengu Jombange in 1 minute. The idea is to get to Frengu Jombange. I don't know why, I don't see why our different positions to lead us to insult one another. To resolve this issue of social media, there are 3 things the state must do. First of all, the state must empower the National Communication, the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission as an independent regulatory body to react spontaneously to some of these things. Because if they give them that mandate, you will see that a lot of these social media things will go down. Thirdly, the state should invest in building its own social media observers in such a way that they can quickly report these things when it's written in languages that are within Cameroon context. Thirdly, the state, the National Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission should now invest in seminars, as he said, invest in seminars on training young politicians and also the old schools to understand that we cannot watch outdated lenience in the public. What defines a state is what people see on social media. If the investors want to come to your country, the first thing they do is they look at your social media as fair. What are Cameroonians saying? If Cameroonians are out there insulting the nation, talking about this, talking about it, therefore tells me that if I come with my investment in your country, I will have a problem because you cannot work with one another. we have difficulties working one another. It's exhibited on social media. So why do I bring investment into a country that I cannot have good workers? Workers who will be fighting each other. So I believe that if we all look at this three fair, organizing seminars, understanding the fact that the state too has roles to play, empowering a bilingualism and multiculturalism commission, we will a bit reduce it, and also social media effective usage should be taught now in school, because we are experiencing leaders from the grassroots. They are moving. The school, primary school, should know the disadvantage. The secondary school, it moves within the ladder, so that if somebody graduates in the next 20 years, that person has been schooled on effective use of social media.
So now there's an observation I would like to make.
Okay.
There is this conflict between the state and separatists. They attack each other as well. I mean, the state in that capacity as well sometimes gives out information that is unfounded. Likewise, the fighters on ground.
They did it for Buhari. They deleted his post.
Yeah, I'm just trying to put a situation where even the government is caught up in that web. And now, if we talk about the government regulating social media, I bet you don't even go there, because it will become a monitoring system where either you speak for the government or you don't speak at all. Opposing the government now might be considered violence and arrogance. We are in a democratic
The jurisprudence here is not.
This is Africa. We know these things. I'm being realistic here because it has been happening. I'm being realistic here. If we give our government the mandate, the right to regulate our social,
it is
their role responsibility. No, those who found the founders of Facebook are responsible for violence and acts. That's why they have community standards. They delete those things automatically. It is not the head of state of Cameroon to come and monitor our chats and say no, Tata was violence. Block Tata.
No. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that is what.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not sure. He said no. He said that these guys should be empowered to do their job. There is the Bilingualism Commission guys, like the National Communication Council guys. The president should have so much work to do.
Mr. Leo, we have a problem of age in Cameroon. Even those in that commission, I'm not sure they are frequent on social media.
They are frequent.
Okay, yeah. You have a contrary view to what he said?
Yes, I pleaded to differ the way he was addressing the situation, because it is a role and responsibility of the state to regulate communication, or else people will then speak out of madness. You will bear with me that secessionist leaders go on social media and they think that the only way they can make themselves popular and recognized by the international community is to discredit the image of this country, and it should not be accepted. You get it?
Sure.
And it has also happened with some opposition leaders. They went as far as instigating some Cameroonians to attack Cameroon diplomatic missions abroad, and you saw the consequences it plays on the image of this country. And I love the fact that you have as well traveled, and you know that when you drop your passport somewhere, all the actions play on you. So it is something that concerns all of us. I think we are political actors. We define the policies of this nation how it's supposed to be. And if we are aspiring for position tomorrow, we must take positions that will regulate our own positions tomorrow that we long to achieve. So a word to a wise is sufficient.
Just to add there, you know that Facebook community standard in the US is different from, they have policies a bit different from that of other countries. There's what we call the socio-demographic factors. Socio-demographic factors of Cameroon is different from the socio-demographic factors of the West. Now, what they may consider as against their community standard may not be against our own community standard. We have had a lot of issues where our posts are being deleted based on what they consider as their community standard. Now, what I'm saying is that, like we have seen even Nigeria took out Twitter, when they deleted the post of President Muhammadu Buhari, alleging that he went against their social media policy, glorifying violence and promoting violence. So they deleted. Now, Nigerian government reacted by stating that the Twitter took their comment out of context, and that the head of state was reacting to against those who are destroying the country. And he is a commander-in-chief and the #1 protector of the territorial integrity of the state.
Correct.
But that now was not in line. Twitter still said it was still against their policy. But what did they do? Nigeria decided to take out Twitter because Twitter violated their. It's a platform that could easily be used to destabilize a country. Without peace, Nigeria will not use Twitter. So Twitter can go. I'm not saying that there should be that body that should monitor Cameroon, whatever they say. I started by mentioning the 1990 freedom of communication, that you have the right to speak. But do you know that the National Communication Council was born 1 year after the reintroduction, 1 year after the launch of the 1990, the freedom of communication 1990, because the state realized that there was partisan journalism, yellow journalism, junk journalism, cyber journalism, that there's need to regulate this freedom that we have given. And as time went on, they saw that it was an advisory body, and they decided to move into an independent regulatory body that there's need for urgent action. If we don't do this, we'll have an urgent action. It's the same thing like with bilingualism and hate speech. As we are moving now, there's need now that for the state to give them the powers, because the state will not have all. There's a lot of work for the head of state, a lot of work for the prime minister, a lot of work for the minister of territorial administration. They don't have this chance to be monitoring hate speech and the rest. So if you give this commission, the selected individual of integrity, the power to act on it, I believe will reduce the violence. So what I'm saying in essence in this regulatory note is that so demographic factor play a lot. In my context, in Pidgin, you can say a word and Facebook see it as violent. You can share a picture in Cameroon, it's okay, but they see it as violent. You can tag in Cameroon, we have a communal life.
Okay, we have, I'm sure, 10 more minutes to go, since we will need to listen to that exclusive interview granted by Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle at the end of this edition of the program. We need to see these guys do more work effectively. What would you want to expect to see them do on ground, and also making people to respect their mission?
This is a commission that is made of men of integrity. That I have due respect for, especially somebody like Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle, who is my former CMF Presbytery president. He's a man of integrity, a freedom fighter, a man in whom I trust in his clairvoyance. And him and other members of that commission, we expect them to raise the standards of that commission, and then to take the bull by the horns. There is this French adage that goes that le poisson commence à pourrir par la tête. I would like that they start hitting hard from the head of this administration in terms of respect of bilingualism and multiculturalism. We have senior state leaders, directors, sub-directors who are not able to communicate in both languages, and the positions that they hold merits that they should be able to communicate in both languages. We have senior political leaders who still go on platforms and make fallacious, outrageous statements that are not acceptable in the 21st century. You bear with me that on one platform, a politician of the French descent was trying to argue a point against secessionists, especially those who are requesting for a federation, and went forward to make a very democratic statement like si les anglophones demandent la fédération, ça veut dire que les Bassa vont aussi demander la fédération, les Boulou vont aussi demander la fédération. Ça veut dire que he reduced anglophones to a tribe, which I think that they should go as far as bringing all these people to order. And then what I would really like for them to take again as a fundamental role is trying to create a platform where Cameroonians will know their history. Cameroonians will know where they come from and where they are going to. Because you would bear with me that if you get into one of these schools and you start talking about the history of West Cameroon, they are not aware of. They don't know that something existed like West Cameroon and East Cameroon. They know the history of East Cameroon, they don't know the history of West Cameroon. You go to West Cameroon, they know the history of West Cameroon, they don't know the history of East Cameroon. I think these are some of those fundamental things that were forgotten after the unity government, after they came together as one. When you bring people as one, you integrate them and you interchange your history, you interchange your culture, so that the people should be able to know the other. But it wasn't done. You would hear they would sing in their songs. They will call heroes of East Cameroon, and the heroes of West Cameroon are forgotten, because the other side, they were not taught. They didn't do this inter-exchange. So I think there is a role of the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission to create a platform through sports on CRTV, and why not private media televisions like My Media Prime, the BT Group, and the others, to be able to bring out short spots for about 10-15 seconds on a daily basis, reproducing the history of this country, so that the young ones who are growing up can be able to know that this is how this country originated, this is where we are, and this is how we are moving forward. We strongly adhere to the fact that Cameroon is one and indivisible, but we cannot remain one and indivisible in ignorance. We should be taught how we became one and how indivisible we are, and how we should stay indivisible in truth, in justice, in transparency, and in love.
Okay. Yes. As president of this nation, how would you use this commission to make it very effective, so that Cameroonians can take full advantage or feel their existence?
I think before putting this commission into use, first of all, there are state institutions that can actually do a daily follow-up, because most of these commissions, though we call them national commissions, they are Yaoundé commissions. They only visit other regions and go back. So what I think is, we have ministries, we have state institutions in place. We have the Ministry of Communication. Unfortunately, there were the delegates crying out to us here, complaining about the issue of bilingualism. So I think it begins from there. Once you are a provincial, regional delegate, divisional delegate, do not endorse documents in a particular language. All state correspondences, be it within ministerial departments or internationally, should be in English and French. And sanctions should be meted on government officials who use a particular language in their correspondences for a long time. For example, if you do that twice, thrice, it is what punishable. So if we go by that, because this is constitutional, being bilingual, so as a state representative, you should be able to use these two languages. If you are unable, you shouldn't even occupy that office in the first place. So we should start by empowering institutions that are in place to serve the local population. It's not about commissions coming in, going back to Yaoundé to give reports. It's about daily follow-up of these things. And that's one of the problems we have in this country, because everything is centered in Yaoundé. Decentralization, decentralization is not effective. If it were, most of these problems would be solved automatically.
This commission also came to take stock, to see for themselves what is happening.
Is it too much to have regional representatives of this commission?
Yes, they have.
I'm sure.
They have.
I'm sure.
Also, okay, if they have, they should come and get reports from those representatives, because if they are there,
who would you trust? Meeting the people in a plenary, like what happens, where the people freely tell you the problems, or meeting with just
we are talking about taking action that will lead to effective service when it comes to bilingualism. That's why I was talking about sanctions.
Okay.
Yeah, those who are to sanction are state officials, not the local population. The local population will always cry out, will always face these challenges. But government officials are put in place to solve these problems. But when they come up crying again to the local population, I begin to ask questions. Are they doing their job?
Okay. Yes.
I think to address this, my first plea to the members of the National Commission for Bilingualism is that they should not just end at that level. They should move to the other parts of the nation, in to promote these. And also, they should focus also on these three systems of violence. I'm sure Barrister Ntumfor knows it very well because he's a peace expert about the cultural violence, the structural violence, and the direct violence. Because we are quick to address hate speech from the perspective of direct violence. But direct violence comes because there's a cultural, therefore it's a follow-up of cultural and structural violence. So if the people need electricity, water, good roads, they need good economic policies. If you give them, you will not focus on preaching hate speech. If the people feel that, if some people feel that they are more important than the others, if you bring out, demystify this and make them understand that we are all Cameroonians that share the same constitution, sing the same, Cameroon, cradle of our father, and benefit from staying wherever we want to stay without saying that c'est sans le terre, c'est sans le terre, you will not have problems addressing direct violence. Direct violence as a result of the fact that you do not address structural and cultural violence, then you have direct violence. Now, if they can preach this to all this level, the third thing which I think they can do as a commission is that they should work on the military to be bilingual, because the security should be bilingual, because we have security men deployed in the northwest, in the southwest, in littoral, in wherever you go to. As an Anglophone security person, somebody speak English, you should be able to speak effective French if you are deployed in east, if you are deployed in the north, such that you can easily maintain peace and encourage collaboration between a common man.
Only that our brothers who are military officers themselves, when you meet them, you hardly know that they are Anglophones. All of them want to speak.
It's because of cultural violence. Cultural violence, some people feel they are more important. So for you to earn respect, you must align yourself to that culture.
No.
So that you
meet your brother who is an Anglophone, and you are talking to him. He behaves as if he does not even get.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying. That cultural violence means some people feel they are more important than others. And if you are within the military and you want to show importance, they know that they will respect the man that's speaking French more. So I identify myself with the French, despite the fact that I am an Anglophone. But if we are killed this cultural violence, when nobody feels which language is more important than the other, or whoever speaks French is the same as somebody speak English, I will identify myself with English. Okay. Everybody wants that respect, so they quickly identify in French, and you feel like, oh, is someone, is not my brother. And so what I'm saying is that if the military can be, or the security corps, they can preach accelerated bilingualism within this corps, so that our brothers who are from Northwest and Southwest, who are military officers or security officers deployed in East, in Littoral, in everywhere, should know how to speak French. It will increase civil and military cooperation will be higher. The reason why we have a problem with civil and military cooperation in the Northwest and the Southwest region is because of the fact that the language culture doesn't flow. If somebody speaks French to you, you will not have that easy accessibility to have that collaboration. But if the person speaks your English, you can easily collaboration. The same thing with the North. If our brothers who are deployed to the North can speak French, if the civil and military cooperation will be more. You can exchange yourself more with somebody of the same language. In essence, dear Barrister Ntumfor, I appreciate your work and I know that you're a man of value. Please, we trust on you and we pray that tell the government to give you people the independent regulatory body that people can act and act fast, because peace can only come when we don't exaggerate our utterances and when we respect the views of others.
Okay, we are now going to be taking the exclusive interview granted my media prime by Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle, who took some questions from our Northwest-based correspondent, Charles Kibo.
Hi, televiewers, you're welcome to my media prime this evening on Prime Hour. We will be focusing on a mission carried out by the Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism in the Northwest region that was led by Barrister Ntumfor Nico Halle to the region. You're welcome to my media prime.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
This day, Prime Hour wants to get from you. You have been in the region on a serious marathon, you know, to talk to your people on the need.
Say it again, marathon.
Marathon to ensure. Marathon mission. Mission to ensure the people of your region know exactly what bilingualism is all about. Just to find out what brought you to the region.
You've said it all. We came to assess, to evaluate the implementation of the 2019 law on bilingualism. How far the people have gone, because we are here already, and this law is soon 3 years. So it must have been well implemented all over the nation. And so we've come to evaluate. On the sidelines of that also, and I think this is very important, to crusade against xenophobia and hate speech in matters. That hate speech and xenophobia that have destroyed and are destroying the very foundation of this nation. Social media is scandalous. So we're trying to stem that, we're trying to douse that, we're trying to assuage that, we're trying to bring it down to the barest minimum, because it's been very, very disastrous.
Very, very disastrous. What first impression, of your work haven't, carried out so far?
We realize that the people are enthusiastic, they have the zeal to embrace bilingualism, but when we came, we decided to place the implementation of this law on the platform of core moral and spiritual values. Because, as you know, bilingualism has been there since 72, and even 61 it was there, because you look at the preamble of the Constitution, proud of our linguistic and, cultural diversity, so we are trying to make sure that it becomes a reality. We actualize that I would call it an asset, because bilingualism is an asset. First to the people, because if you are bilingual, you are the first beneficiary. Then to your community, then to your society, and of course your nation. So we want bilingualism this time around the vehicle on the platform of core moral and spiritual values. Because without these core moral and spiritual values, that I should permit me name them, you cannot effectively implement them. Because you can only succeed in this kind of assignment if there is love. Love is the foundation of every other thing. The greatest commandment in the Bible, that the greatest book in the world, is love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And of course, the second is like unto the first, love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't have love, you can't even build yourself. You can't even take care of your family. You can't even take care of your environment. You cannot not be patriotic. So we are saying that when there is love, there is justice. Where there is justice, there's equity. Where there's equity, there's what we call transparency and accountability. Where love exists, you have integrity, dignity, and honor. Where love exists, you have the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. Where love exists, there's patriotism. Where love exists, there's integrity. Because integrity is what makes a man. It's not money. It's not wealth. It's not book. It's what you are doing that puts smiles on people's faces. You don't need to have a lot of money or money. You don't need to have PhDs to be an international lawyer, as I am. You just need to be a Cameroonian. You don't need to be an honest person. You have that integrity, which you cannot buy with money. And then, of course, with all of that on that platform, those core moral and spiritual values. Humility is also very important, not arrogance. And of course, when I underscore patriotism, I take you to the motto of this nation, peace, work, fatherland. I take you also to a stanza of an anthem that I love so much. Thy welfare will win in toil and love and peace. See, all of this for me, they are very precious citations. And so if we must build a people and build a nation, there's no way we can do that without this common values. And you don't need to be a pastor. You don't need to be the son of a pastor. You don't need to be, you just need to be a patriotic Cameroonian who has love. Then, of course, you can promote bilingualism. And talking about hate speech, that we have also come to crusade against. What is the cause of hate speech and xenophobia? It's the absence of love. Yes, the absence of love. Where you don't have love, you are prone to greed. You now amass wealth that is meant for others. You loot, plunder, pillage. You are so corrupt. You are found in embezzlement, misappropriation. And as you are in that kind of equation, you are depriving hundreds and thousands of people of what is theirs. And what does that create? Poverty and unemployment. And no poor person has kind words. What they will have is wicked words, hate words. And that is the origin of hate speech. And if you don't have love, you will not consider the people who are around you who come from different tribes as part of you. You start excluding them and giving them names, which is wrong. Xenophobia is like discrimination. And discrimination is one of the things that will destroy every family, will destroy every structure. If you are in an association and there's any sign of discrimination in it, forget about it, it cannot work. If you are in a committee and there's discrimination in it, it cannot work. If you are in a commission and there's discrimination in it, it cannot work. If you are in a ministry and you have discrimination, it cannot work. If you are in any association, any structure in the world, and there is discrimination, it cannot work because it creates what? Bad blood. It creates bad blood, conflicts, hatred. And when there is all of that, what comes out of it is hate speech. And so if you cannot create that and be fighting it. That's why I say if you are corrupt, you are an embezzler, depriving others. You misappropriate things that belong to others. You don't qualify to fight hate speech or xenophobia because you have caused it. That's what I've told you. And that if we love our nation and we love our brothers, our neighbors, we must make sure that we entrench love. Love should be the foundation. You know, the greatest commandment in the Bible is love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love, then what are you? What can you offer, even to yourself? And so that is my take. That is my take. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be led by the Holy Spirit. He's saying the things that I'm saying. And you need to love your neighbor. Loving your neighbor does not mean going to sleep on the same bed. You were born by the same mother. No. Loving your neighbor, anybody that you meet is your neighbor. That the neighbor principle has nothing to do with proximity. Yes, so you are my neighbor, even if you come from which region. And you should love people when you meet them. You don't need hate.
How do you think the people will solve this new approach of xenophobia, at the time, practically, to say that will make sure the campaign touches all the nooks and corners?
Yes, it's a process. It's a process. It's not a split act. It's not a split event. I just indicated a few moments ago that the law, the 2019 December 21st law, is about 3 years only. And so you see how young it is. What I know is that the Commission is going around mobilizing and sensitizing the people and telling them the importance of implementation of the law. And so the Commission alone cannot do the job. They are merely a catalyst. They will go out and tell the people what to do, and we've invited everybody to be part of the Commission, to be partners with the Commission, because the Commission alone cannot touch all the nooks and things as indicated. And so the Commission belongs to Cameroonians. The National Commission was created for Cameroonians, and so they have a right to know what the Commission is doing. They have a right because it's taxpayers' money that is making the commission go around. And so the people have the right to know what the commission is doing in their interest. And of course, you have to bring them on board so that together, because it's not a one-man group of people, at all regions, we create regional structures, and then they go afield. They go afield and promote that bilingualism and fight against hate speech and xenophobia. This thing is holistic. It involves all Cameroonians. So whether you're inordinate voting or you have unbridled quest for power, please know that time has come when that paradigm must move. It must move. The mindset must change. The mentality must change, because otherwise, tomorrow is not good. If we don't change and make sure that all of us change, we change for the good of humanity. Because I said a few days ago, when you embezzle money, it's a crime against humanity, because you put some people in a very, very nasty situation. You place people in poverty, in abject squalor, abject misery. And of course, that kind of situation can only engender, create a very uncomfortable situation, which is usually difficult to handle. So it's very important in a nation like ours that has been blessed with huge natural resources, and Cameroonians are very intelligent people. We don't deserve where we are. And the problem is Cameroonians. We are too corrupt. We are too morally decadent. We don't know, we cannot draw a dichotomy between state till and our till. State property, state resources, and our resources. That is the problem. That is the problem. And if you don't do that, you cannot say you're patriotic. Patriotism is love. I just indicated the motto of our nation, peace, work for the land, and also a stanza in our national anthem. A welfare we shall bring in toil and love and peace. That is it. I love those standards, that particular standard. And that's why every day of my life, we'll all perish. Eventually everybody will perish. But the question you ask yourself, what has been your legacy? What do you do to put smiles on people's faces? What do you do to protect the downtrodden, the have-nots? What do you do to protect the destitute? What did you do to ensure that the truth will set us free? No, we lie a lot. There's a lot of hypocrisy, falsehood, half-truths, surrogacy, and all kinds of, brands of decadence that we should be ashamed of. And this is the moment we should make it better. To ask ourselves whether we are serving God or serving demon.
You are actually in the Northwest region crusading at a time you, as one of those peace crusaders, the region is faced with, we put it, lots of crises that moves even at the level where brothers hate to see brothers, sisters hate to see sisters, and we are moving continuously. What word to this people?
Yes, I can only say that we should disseminate love. That platform that I've indicated here is the only platform that can take care of this situation, that can deal with it. As long as that platform is not actualized, we will continue to hate each other. And hate is bad. Hate is bad. Some people call it hatred, but I want to say hate is bad. To use it as an adjective, but you can also use hate as noun. So hate is bad, hatred is bad. So I should love you. I don't need to come from the same religion. From the same religion, up front, I have no problem with anybody. Whether you come from what region. What has happened and just destroyed this harmony is the fact that
be discriminated. We call some people names. We give some people names. You know, people are excluded. You know, you only think about your brothers or sisters, people with your tribe or your region who are the same mindset like you, from the same religion, who go to the same church as you. No! The love of God is for everybody. And I just told you here that the greatest commandment is love, 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 love.
It's a pleasure talking to you on My Media Prime Hour this evening.
Thank you very much, My Media Prime Hour, for the good job that you are doing in relation to transforming the world. Let the Lord accompany you. Do your job honestly. You might not get paid by a human being.
Well, we want to say we are very grateful to you, Ntumfor Barrister Nico Halle, for accepting to talk to My Media Prime, especially Prime R exclusively, and also to you, Charles Kebwa, for that great interview. We also want to thank you, Mr. Shunneh, as well as to you, Mr. Tata, and you, Tah Mai Jarvis, for accepting our invitation for today's edition of Prime R on My Media Prime. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.
Black n'est pas sombre, c'est brillant. Black est audacieux. Black, c'est la fusion de couleurs en une seule.